We go. Okay, so I am very happy to have on the other side of the Skype connection, Mr. Zane Carney. How are you doing, Zane?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I mean, it's awesome to be able to talk to you like that. Hopefully, the gods of the internet will be with us until the end of the conversation.
I hope so.
Yeah. So, what was your first guitar, Zane?
The first guitar I got as a gift on my birthday, and it was a Vantage acoustic guitar.
Okay.
It was a cutaway. It was a blue guitar, and I think I got it for my 10th birthday in April of 1995.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think at that time that I wanted to really pursue music as a passion. My dad played guitar, my older brother played guitar, and I wanted to be part of that party.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And what were your influences and training?
well, when I first got that guitar, I was 10 years old, so I was listening to Offspring and Nirvana and Green Day and Alanis Morissette, Red Hot Chili Peppers, yeah, a lot of bands like that. But yeah, it wasn't until I discovered jazz music that I really fell in love with creating music.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been when I was 14. I discovered West Montgomery.
Okay,
Which
nice.
is
Mm-hmm.
great. But at 12, on the way to that sort of jazz discovery, I loved Eric Clapton's "Change the World." I loved that song.
Okay.
I remember trying to learn that, and that was a really challenging song for a kid. So I was like working on all the shapes, and I was listening to a lot of Michael Jackson at that time, and Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men. I always loved R&B,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of was like a precursor to me falling in love with jazz.
Okay. And so, does that mean that you followed some academic training about jazz, or was it mostly listening and playing with other people?
I got a really awesome balance of learning by ear and having amazing teachers. Because when I was about 12 years old, our parents got divorced, and there was less money to like do private lessons. So I would just listen at home and go to jam sessions where somehow these adults would let me play. I'd go and sit in and try to play the blues, sometimes a little bit of jazz. But then I went to this amazing high school, Hamilton Academy of Music in Los Angeles, and we had this amazing band instructor named Dan Taguchi, and he just really helped light a fire underneath me and got me passionate about learning. And then I started going to guitar camp once a week every summer. Our mom was able to get some money together to just do like a 1 week intensive course for us, and that really was impactful too. But yeah, I didn't really do private lessons until I got to college,
Mm-hmm.
except for maybe like a few before I was 12, just like in group settings or with like an acoustic teacher trying to teach me songs. From age like 13 to 18, it was um, once a week every summer at Guitar Workshop, the National Guitar Workshop, which is now closed, unfortunately, and my high school.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so, in a couple of minutes, we're going to talk about two albums you released recently, Confluence and Amalgam. If you have to summarize two or three important turning points in your career between that early stage of your career and those two albums, what would they be?
Oh wow, that's a great question. One of the first turning points in me even starting a career at all was in high school. My brother was 2 years older than I was, and he was a guitarist as well. And I felt in the beginning of high school that I was kind of in his shadow. I was a freshman, which is ninth grade in America. I was just in the lowest band. There were three jazz bands. I was in jazz band C, and but over summer or winter break of the first year of high school, I just was practicing so much. I was in
Mm-hmm.
my room playing along to West Montgomery the entire winter break. And I came back in the spring semester, and some of the guys who were in A band with my brother started to take notice of me, and they coined a nickname for me, which was Frankenstein.
Not nice.
They said, "What'd you do, man? Your brother's like Frankenstein. You've been putting pieces together." They were implying that my brother was teaching me stuff and like creating a new guitar monster.
Okay.
And that was a turning point for me because it made me believe in myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because these older people who I respected were saying that I was starting to develop. They were noticing that I was developing. And I was like, wow, maybe I am developing.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big turning point. When I was 19 years old, I went to USC, Thornton School of Music, for studio jazz guitar. And I was in school, and I was considering getting back into acting, which is my first artistic outlet. And my first job in life was as an actor on a sitcom, on a television show in America for like 4 years. It was like a big part of my life. And I thought, I'll get back into that. But for some reason, it was hard to get an agent. I wasn't as passionate about it. And this girl, Renee Olstead, asked me to play guitar with her on tour. And she was an artist that David Foster produced. And so I was like, well, I guess this is a sign. Maybe I should be doing music, maybe not acting. That was another turning point. And I'd say the biggest turning point, there have been so many that I could call turning points, but the biggest one was when John Mayer reached out to me in April of last year and asked me to play guitar with him. And it was a big enough turning point starting making music with him, but I think for me it was even more emotionally impactful because I didn't audition. He just found out about me and it seemed to appreciate what I was doing and asked me to play with him.
Mm-hmm.
That was emotionally like, wow, this is actually a real thing. This is happening.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit more about that. How do you land such a huge gig? Playing with John Mayer. Did you have to compete with, I don't know, hundreds of other guitar players, or what?
For all the things in my life that I try to control, I continue to be surprised when they present themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've already lived a full life of someone who's like 90 years old. I just can't believe it. But yeah, I don't quite know how the process worked on John's end, but I know that there wasn't an audition. So I don't know how many people were in the running. I just know that he found out about my website, about my YouTube page, and
Mm-hmm.
apparently he had known about me for some time. I don't know how, but when he reached out to me, he already knew that I was working at Spider-Man on Broadway. He knew that I played lead guitar in a rock band with my brother called Carney. So he already knew about it. I don't know how he knew about me.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, it was. And since working with John, it's been so cool because he's truly a world-class guitarist, and he's also a world-class songwriter and singer.
Yeah.
He's already that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know one guitar player or even one jazz player. Us jazz players can be the snobbiest of the bunch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know one jazz guy who doesn't just tip their hat to John and
Mm-hmm.
say, this guy can play. This guy is one of us. He's legitimate, and I'm honored that he thinks I'm one of him, or like that he's willing to have me as part of his team. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And tell us a little bit more about how the guitar parts are divided between you two. Is John telling you, okay, Zane, you are going to play that, I'm going to play that, and just shut up and do your work, or what? Or is it, okay, Zane, I hire you because I enjoy your style and your phrasing and so on, and here is the song, and bring whatever you can to the song?
It's kind of the best of both worlds. Because he's so clear and so he's such a musical genius that he can describe exactly what he's looking for
Mm-hmm.
from each person in the band: drums, bass, guitar. So that's amazing. He's clear, but he's not heavy-handed. He lets us have free time. He lets us improvise. There have been more than. I'd say at at least half of the concerts on this tour, I had 4 solos per night. He gives me so many solos. It's amazing. He gives everyone time to shine.
Mm-hmm.
But guitar solos more than bass and drum solos. So he tends to give me a good amount of time to be free. And there have been concerts where on the microphone, on a song where I've never soloed on, he just goes, "Zane, I want you to bebop on this song." Like a 3-minute bebop, shred fest. It's just, I something about growing up a child actor and whatever it was in my upbringing, I'm still sort of overcoming this anxiety that things are gonna stop happening as well as they have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still trying to overcome that. So there's part of me that's like, this is too good to be true. No way, this is really happening. But I mean, it's been almost a year of working with John, and he continues to be generous, supportive, and really inspiring to me.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about your music. I mean, I listened to, as I said earlier, the last two albums you did, and Confluence is very pop oriented with great guitar parts, and when Amalgam is also with great guitar parts, but much more darker and much more jazzy. Was it a conscious decision to have two albums so different, or did it just happen like that?
It kind of happened naturally, and in some ways against the way that my mind works as like a marketing or business person.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, it almost doesn't make sense to release two albums less than 6 months apart that are completely different styles.
Yeah.
So what is this guy trying to do? What is he trying to be?
Who is that? Who is that guy? Is this?
Yeah, I just think about it, and I realized that it's been about 10 years of me trying to market with Carney, playing with Carney, or being a hired gun, trying to figure stuff out. And I thought, you know what? These songs and this music has been on my heart for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm, free to release however I want to release stuff, why don't I just do it? And one other thing that helped me in making that decision was that I consciously left my manager from when I was with Carney, and I also left the label that I was on with Carney, Interscope. So I left these two a big management company and a big major label, and I did that about a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I'm still a sort of free agent, I guess, as it were. And I thought, well, if, before I reach out to managers to really see if there's something here with my solo stuff, why don't I put out everything that speaks about who I am,
Mm-hmm.
so that I can give a better picture to these labels, these managers, people who might want to invest in helping me, God willing, get to maybe somewhere that John Mayer is one day. So I'm really happy with the decision so far. But yeah, I mean, one thing that I've been concerned about is that my dream is to have a really sort of fragmented career path, but with the singing songwriting stuff being the main course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I would love to score for film. I would love to play 10 nights in a row at the Blue Note in New York City and then in Japan. I'd love to open for Roy Hargrove, or I don't know, or play in his band. I don't know. Just and I've actually already played with him, which is an honor. But just to do things like that. But I'd also love to be able to reach as many people as possible with sort of a message of hope and encouragement and support and all that stuff. And I feel like that's best served through singing songs with lyrics. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see where it all goes. I guess I'm casting my lots and seeing what comes of it.
Mm-hmm. On Confluence, you do a great cover of "Cry Me a River." How did you approach such a tune? Because it's just you and one guitar, right, on that song.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, that song kind of came about because I was listening to a lot of Jeff Buckley, and he has "Lilac Wine," which is like a Nina Simone jazz type song. I was listening to that song, that whole album a lot, and I also was watching V for Vendetta, the movie. And there's a "Cry Me a River." Julie London's version of it is featured in that song in a very special way. And the things just clicked. And when I started playing that song, it was years before I was even singing.
Mm-hmm.
So my brother used to sing it for me because he was the singer. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago that I thought, man, this song, now that I've finally kind of learned how to sing, this could be a fun song. And I just picked up the guitar, and the second I started singing, I was like, yep, this has to be something I do. Especially because I feel like "Cry Me a River" kind of does what Confluence and Amalgam do just in one song. It's like I'm singing, I'm trying to communicate as best I can, and then I get to have just a crazy jazz solo.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's fun for me.
Mm-hmm. What guitar did you use on that live version?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What did I use on that? Oh, I think that was my 335.
Yeah.
It's a blue Gibson ES335. That was the fifth or sixth guitar I received as a gift from my parents. Maybe third. I'm trying to remember when I started buying my own guitars. But yeah, I was still in high school, and I was going to jazz competitions, and it was really exciting for me. I was starting to like win awards, like best soloist at the jazz competition, all these things. But I was using a Telecaster guitar, and I noticed that a lot of the jazz guys, they kind of vibe with me a little bit. Like, oh, he's not a real jazz guy. You know, maybe the judges liked his solo, but he's using a Telecaster. He doesn't know.
Mm.
And I went to my mom, of course, as a kid, and I'm like, they don't think I'm real.
I need a bigger guitar.
And all about it. She's like, well, maybe for your birthday. So, I mean, we didn't have much money, I'm telling you. So it really meant a lot that she was willing to, help me, fulfill this dream. I saw this blue Gibson 335 at Guitar Center. She got it for my birthday, and things really, jazz-wise, went off to the races once I got the guitar. It really sparked things.
Mhm. There is a song called "You're Not the One," which has a nice Hendrix feel. Was he an inspiration for you?
You know what's so funny? I was so into jazz music in high school that I didn't even listen to Jimi Hendrix. My
Mhm.
friends were saying like, you're a guitar player. You don't you love Jimmy Page? Don't you love Jimi Hendrix? And I was like, I mean, I know they're famous, but I don't really listen to them. It wasn't until I was like 20 years old, and Carney was starting to really, do things, and Carney's a rock band. So I was like, I should start listening to these guys, and my head started to explode. Jimmy Page is like, oh man, I say my three favorite guitar players as of today are Wes Montgomery, Jimmy Page, and I don't know, maybe Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead. But yeah, I love him. But yeah, Jimi Hendrix. Yeah, my brother was really into Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix, so
Mhm.
I tried to steal as many things from him while he was learning, shedding those riffs. But yeah,
Mhm.
I wish I was. I mean, most people grow up listening to Jimmy for some reason. I know it's kind of sacrilegious. I was 21 or so.
Yeah, it's funny because you started with Wes Montgomery, all the big jazz guy. Then after that, you discovered or went into Jimmy Page, Hendrix, Clapton, and so on. And usually it is the opposite. Yeah, we start with the rock thing because it is easier. Then we move to jazz if you want to have a bigger, wider vocabulary. But you did the opposite. That's strange.
Yeah, and when I was reading some biographies, it looks like a lot of the guys like Jimmy Page and Jimi Hendrix, they kind of went the same direction I did, where they
Okay.
started with Wes and Charlie, Christian,
Christian.
and these
Mhm.
guys. So I was like, oh, maybe that's why in Carney people used to say, oh, you remind me of Jimmy Page, and I said, I don't even listen to him.
Jimmy, what?
It's because I listened to the same people he did, and I just picked up the same kind of stuff he did from
Mhm.
them. I don't
Mhm.
know.
That's
But
cool.
it's funny. People, I have long hair. I like, dressing with sort of weird-looking clothes, and so people assume that I'm this rock guy. But I mean, I'm really. I mean, I love rock music. I feel like it's a big part of the way I express myself. Even Amalgam has a lot of rock roots. I would say I'm more of a jazz and rock guitarist than a jazz and blues guitarist. But that being said, I mean, rock took me so long to loosen up to. It took
Mhm.
me so long to just loosen up enough to play rock. I was so tight and technical when I was a kid. So it's really cool to me that people think of me as a rock player.
Mhm. Okay.
All right, great, I'll take it. Why not?
And on Confluence, there are a lot of very nice songs and which are very pop oriented with very nice chords and chorus with hooks that you can hum after that, and you don't fall into the complexity we often find in jazz players who are very educated and who are able to play very complex melodic system and so on. So how did you avoid that trap?
It's a great question. Well, I will say that the thing that has always inspired me about jazz is the sort of limitless potential and options harmonically.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that.
Mhm.
But as a kid, Michael Jackson, like I was saying earlier, like Michael Jackson, Mariah Carey, Boys to Men, I just love melodies. I love being able to hum stuff back. The Beatles were a huge part
Mhm.
of our childhood. Um, and I have to say, I sent Amalgam to a lot of my jazz friends, and one of the main responses was, "Wow, I thought you were gonna like do crazy chops, but you decided to write songs instead. Why
Mhm.
is that? Like, I thought you was." And I was, my first response to my friends was, well, I'm not, I might have some smoke and mirrors, like, made people think that I'm like a super fast player, but really, I only use technique to express myself. I'm not gonna go toe to toe with Joe Satriani and win that one. Like that's not, but I'll have little bursts here and there just to express what I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with Confluence, that's kind of part of the reason why I'm more naturally geared towards melody than being impressed. I think emotionally, what I get from music is it kind of uplifts me and helps me feel like maybe I can be more selfless today, or maybe I can give to others in a easier way because music's made me feel so happy. I want to share that with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's why I listen to music more so than to be impressed. So with with music, with Confluence, I wasn't really looking to show people, hey, I know what a flat 9/13 chord is and how it can resolve.
Mm-hmm.
I was more trying to offer sort of in this sort of service industry of music, like offer something that might make people feel less alone, happier in some way. So yeah, I mean, that being said, one day it would be fun to release a completely stupid technical. But I want to start off with an easier course.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I'm not. I have friends who won't listen to boring pop music. I used to be one of those people actually. There's not enough harmonic movement, and so on the guitar parts on Confluence, I wanted to add a little bit of flavor so that for people like me who get bored by 1, 4, 5, oh god again. Or actually these days, this day and age is 4, 5, 6. That's like the new. Everyone's doing that on like all the pop songs, 4, 5, 6, 1. But yeah, I just I don't know. I didn't really answer that question very clearly. Kind of got taken away on that one. Sorry.
No problem. I mean, I love when I ask a question and it ends up with a long answer, which take you to many different places. That's great. So let's talk about Amalgam. I mean, there is those are very jazzy songs with a very dark atmosphere, and so it's fully instrumental. Is it more difficult for you to compose without vocals or with vocals?
I find it more challenging to write songs with lyrics, with vocals. But then again, there is one sort of minor challenge for me personally in writing instrumental songs, which is that it's kind of hard to know when I've found the melody or when I've found the finished form. I'm done.
Yeah.
Because with an instrumental song, I want to keep improvising. I'm like, oh, that could be cool too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that could be cool too. With a song with lyrics, it's a little more clear. It's like, okay, the concept of the song, got it. I need to say this sort of emotion in this many minutes, got it. And so I kind of put that puzzle together. But with instrumental stuff, it's no one's going to be listening saying he didn't finish that story. He didn't. What? Why did he say I'm leaving today and then he didn't finish why? Why? It's just notes, so it can be interpreted any way people want. So that's a slight challenge, but I've been playing guitar for so many longs. I've probably sat in my room and just practicing alone more than 10,000 hours, and then performing too. So it's become such a natural part of my body. So yeah, coming up with the songs is really fun and pretty painless.
Mm-hmm. And do you use outside help to help you decide if you overplay or if the song is okay, or are you your own judge on your music?
Well, Chris Rondinella co-produced, engineered, and mixed Amalgam. He also co-produced and engineered Confluence, and he's been a friend of mine since high school.
Mm-hmm.
He's just an amazing talent. He worked with Levon Helm at his place in Woodstock for like 3 years, like lived with him, and so he has such a wealth of knowledge and such a great ear. So he was a tremendous help in Amalgam. I mean, he would just sit there and we would both sit back and listen to these full takes. These were unedited, live to tape performances by a trio. Bam. There were only 2 or 3 songs where we overdubbed the guitar melody on top, but the rest of them were just, 3 instruments live at once. And we'd sit back and listen through 3 takes and just decide, we're not going to splice anything, so which one's the best? All right, well, this one is this, this one has, maybe steps outside and gets kind of weird, but you know what? This is a guitar album, so we can do that. We're not going to, if someone's picking up a guitar album, they're probably willing to listen to some sort of out there stuff, so let's do it, Listening to Confluence was different, the guitar solo on Talk to Me Baby took about a day because we were like, is this too weird? And Chris was saying, well, we want to keep this, Zane-ish. We want it to have your sound,
Yeah.
but it's a pop song, so we don't want it to be too Zane.
Mm.
Find balance. I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. That's why John Mayer is such a genius to me. His guitar solos on his records are so great for each song. It's not like him to rip out and prove to you how great I am. He's just like, he can do that, and he's done that on his records. But when he doesn't do that, it's for good reasons.
Mm-hmm. And was Amalgam recorded in a special place? Because there is throughout the album this reverb. It sounds like you were playing not in a church, but in a room with a lot of ambient reverb. So yeah, was that the case?
It's kind of the way we set it up is we had bass and drums in one room, and then me in a separate room, so I could turn my guitars up loud without bleeding. Because these were all recorded live, at the same time. And we had the bass player play kind of quietly so that the drums could play quietly, and we opened up all the mics huge so that they could sound like they're hitting it so hard, but they're just tapping it, kind of let them expand. And then guitar-wise, we just had, I think, a U47. It might be a U87. I don't remember. But we had that right on this small little 10-inch speaker, and we had another mic in the room, an AKG, or maybe an RCA. God, I'm not good with this stuff. And we just kind of let it splash into the room. And then we added some really amazing plate reverb that he has. And yeah, it was recorded to take. I mean, it was just really a fully sort of analog experience. And really, Amalgam started off as an experiment to sort of play with a live trio in this room. He had never had a live trio. He had been developing this amazing analog situation for years. And I was like, let's just play together. And then after 3 songs, we're like, we should keep going. So we spent 10 more days, like writing songs, adding stuff, calling back the trio, having them do more songs. That's why there are 2 different drummers in the record, because we decided after day 2 or 3 we got to do more, and the guy wasn't available. So we're like, okay, hey, John, are you free? Can you come do this? So, yeah, really, really, really organic process.
There is a song called "In a Mellow Tone," which is a nice, very nice solo piece. Was it composed all the way through, or was it you had a theme and then you improvised until the end? Or
that actually is the only song on Amalgam that's a cover, and that's a jazz standard by Duke Ellington back in like the 30s. And I was just messing around. Again, we were recording the tape, and I was like, hey, let me just try a solo guitar piece. And I did one take of that, and we're like, hey, we should use that. We're just messing around, just trying to find tones. And it's funny that it turned into a full album.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so that song, to answer your question, though, I just played the melody, da-da-da-da-da, and then once the head was done, bam, I just started soloing for, 2 or 3 choruses, and then came back to the head.
Yeah, very nice. It was very nice, and it's always the balance to be able to strike when you play jazz song, because usually the not so educated guitar players, such like me, I mean, we are able to recognize the theme, then we get lost during the solo, and then we say, oh, thank God, here goes the theme again, and it's sometimes not so easy, or we need a couple of listens to go through to fill the gap. So, and it didn't. In that case, it went smoothly. I mean, between the theme and the whole song. So that's a good way, I guess, to record it.
Man, I got lucky. I mean, I will say that I've been watching the Olympics recently, and I was thinking it's kind of like the Olympics, how they have like 5 or 6 things they have to do with their figure skating or snowboarding, and it's like you hope to line them all up together, and then you land at the bottom if you did all 6 things. Like, I finally did it. And yeah, In the Mellow Tone and 17th Street were kind of like that. Like, I'm just like hoping, come on, get through it. Don't make a mistake. We're recording. We're on tape. To get to that point, really hundreds, thousands probably of hours of just really doing stuff like that really slowly in my bedroom. Like, da, 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 stop. What did I just do? I played a 5 chord, outlined it with the 2, 3. Okay, the 4 and the 5 chord became the 1. Bam. Okay, so that's 5 to 1. Da, 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 da. Okay, and then when I get the 1 note, it's actually the 7 of the 2 minor chord. Okay, da, da. I would just go slowly. Da, 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 da. A flat is now the 2 of the B flat minor chord. Okay. So after a while, I could finally speed it up. But Yeah, a lot of slow practicing for stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit more about how it was. What did you use to get the nice guitar tone? Was it a jazz box all the way through, or what?
I had different guitars on every song. Well, that's
Okay.
not true. I had different. I used 3 guitars on this record. I think I used the Gibson ES335, the blue
Mm-hmm.
one,
Mm-hmm.
on 17th Street and on In a Mellow Tone, and then I used and on Good Old Roy, the rhythm guitar for Good Old Roy. And then I used my blue Jerry Donahue special Telecaster. It's kind of my main guitar. On the melody on Good Old Roy. On, what was that song? I think on Gambit. I used it on Gambit, yeah, middle position pickup. I might have used it on Dizzy. No, Dizzy was something else. Okay, so yeah, Tally. Then I used the Hofner Jazzica with the Buscarino pickup.
Mm-hmm.
It's just sort of like one-off guitar that, if I understand correctly, Hofner reached out to me to ask if they wanted to make it a signature guitar, which is crazy. It would be my first signature guitar ever. So it's like a Hofner Jazzica with like this special pickup, and I used that on Bordeaux. It's a really special, open sort of woody sound. Smoke and Mirrors I used it on. Used it on Black Matter, the guitar solo and rhythm on that. So it was mainly Hofner Jazzica, Jerry Donahue Telecaster with like these Kinman pickups,
Mm-hmm.
broadcaster pickups, and my 335.
Mm-hmm. And regarding amps or effects?
I did a few amps. I used a 59 Bassman on the melody on Good Old Roy. We cranked it so loud and turned the treble freaking way too high. Put a ribbon mic up and a U87 like that. But most of the album was on this really old, I think it's like a 1940s National guitar amp. It's a 10-inch speaker, has this amazing tremolo on it. On a lot of the songs where you hear tremolo, like Bordeaux, I didn't even use a pedal board. I just plugged in, put the tremolo on the amp, cranked the reverb up, and off to the races. I don't know if I used my Sigmans on this record. I did on Confluence, but I normally use a Sigmund Midnight Blues in the studio. And sometimes I use a Sigmund Midnight Special in the studio, which is like a smaller 12-inch combo. But yeah, live when I play these songs, I use a Sigmund. I use his amps pretty much exclusively live. I just got a new amp of his, the Sound King,
Mm-hmm.
that just recently came out. It uses 300B tubes, and it's like a really hi-fi, clean, rich, sort of sugary guitar amp. Really cool.
Mm-hmm. And any effects, I don't know, booster or maybe light overdrive or things like that?
The main pedal I think that I used on Amalgam was the HAO Rumble Mod. They don't make this pedal anymore. Now that they're doing the Rumble Mod 2, but it's a Japanese company that's distributed by a company called Godlike Distribution in America. And it's a yellow little pedal. I have 2 of them on my board with John Mayer. And it cuts a lot of your low end, but it gives this amazing cut in the mid-range. And on Bordeaux, I used that. I just clicked that on and gave it some sugar. I use it on Dizzy, the guitar solo, like the wah thing with the on there. I don't know. For me, it kind of gives that Marshall sound, where kind of it's tight and focused. And then I also use the Memory Man, like a '70s Memory Man. On Smoke and Mirrors, there's actually a part where you hear like some weird stuff happening, like this oscillating. And a few people had asked me like, "Oh, so you edited that?" I'm like, "No, these are unedited performances. That was me using my foot on the pedal while I was soloing. I was just like messing around with the delay time so it would oscillate."
Mm-hmm.
So that was really fun to do. We took a lot of chances on Amalgam. I mean, we could have crashed and burned on a lot of these tapes. We were going crazy. We were just having fun, so it worked out.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Okay, so I have also some Twitter question. I mean, you saw that yesterday when I tweeted that I was about to do a Skype interview with you. So I have one from Amy Kayan. He's asking, do you have any tips to be more relaxed during an audition or a concert?
Great question. Actually, I took some help from Michael Phelps on this. I've never met him, but I watched him on the Olympics a couple years ago, and he was talking about how he visualizes the entire race multiple times before he does it, and so that helps me a lot. So I'll visualize how the audition's going to go, and I'll kind of walk into the room, and I did grow up as an actor, so I feel comfortable doing some weird stuff like this.
Okay.
I'll sometimes even feel stuff. I'll like visualize and like get a space in the room and and kind of create people in front of me and be like, okay, I'll shake their hand, I'll sit down, and I'll be nervous while I'm doing this. I'm in my bedroom alone, but I'll feel nervous and I'll get the nerves out then.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps me, and what really helps me, I guess, everyone talks about it, but practicing really helps me. Just making sure that for example, when I'm playing with John Mayer, each audience is different, and there's so many people. Sometimes 20,000 people in the audience.
Yeah.
So there's new people to look at, so that's nervous. But if I practice his parts enough, then this won't be a nervous thing for me. Only the people will be.
Mm-hmm.
If these are nervous, sometimes it's too much to multitask and mistakes happen. But if I've really spent time practicing, slowing down, I find that when the pressure comes, I'll feel nervous about the pressure, but this will feel like a safe place, almost like a family. Like, this part's safe. This is not nervous. Maybe that is, but not this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Any interesting war stories from the road you can share with us? I don't know, some crazy things had happened to you?
Well, back with Carney, we we used to tour in a van, and we might rejoin as a band one day. I would hope that we would. I know that actually out of all the non-U.S. countries, France seemed to gravitate towards our music the most.
Okay.
I've never sent you any Carney stuff. I should
No.
do that.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a song called Amelie that's sort of like a gypsy jazz rock song. And a lot of, there's a song called Resurrection that has some French in it during the bridge. And my brother's voice kind of sounds like Jeff Buckley, which I know he was very popular in France. So yeah, I should definitely send the Carney stuff. But yeah, with Carney, we would play a lot of pranks on each other.
Okay.
My brother, God, he loves playing pranks, and I get frustrated because I want to go to sleep. I want to, not be afraid that he's going to do something crazy at any moment. And he would continually say to me, he's like, man, but I'm just loving my neighbor as myself. I would love it if you would prank me. I'm like, well, I don't care about that though, man. But one day I decided to prank him, and I thought that he would get angry like I did. But he didn't. He laughed really hard, and he was very thankful that I pranked him. I was like, see, I told you I would love it. You should do this to me more often. I don't know. But yeah, being on the road is pretty wild. I mean, I'd say one of the oddest thing is when you tell your friends and family you're going on the road, or people you meet, yeah, I'm going on tour for 6 months. For some reason, the first thing people break up is, oh, well, they say don't get into a relationship, because you'll be on the road, you'll be too busy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a funny thing to say to a touring musician because this is kind of our life. This is what we do. So it's sort of like, should I wait until I'm 80? I don't know. But that's, for some reason, that's the number one comment I hear before any tour starts. Don't get into a relationship. All right, well, it's been 10 years now. I found a way to date through tours, and it's challenging, but it's rewarding.
Okay. Any crazy story, I don't know, with your gear breaking down right in the middle of a song or in a gig in front of 20,000 people? Or
not with John Mayer, really, because my guitar tech, Alex Alvarez, is just so world-class. He's so prepared. But when I toured with Carney, oh, man, I was the guitar tech because we didn't have much money. Man, my stuff would break down all the time because I wouldn't say I hate, but I have such a dislike of digital gear, digital processing. It doesn't work for me. Maybe every now and then I'll find a good guitar pedal that supposedly is digital, and I'll plug it in and kind of work around it. But it's very hard for me to operate it with digital gear.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, I have two gear, I have two pedals, I have, I'm not using buffered anything. I'm not using routers. I'm going straight line cable all the way to the amp, even through 20 pedals sometimes, because I prefer that tone over buffering my signal. So that's just a recipe for things to go badly.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I've been on shows. Carney opened for U2.
Okay.
That show went fine, thank God. Black Crowes. We opened for Fergie. We opened for a lot of big acts, and there were definitely times where we'd do a line check, bam, throw it on, check, and I'd be checking my gear and it would work, and then like a switch on my pedal would just die during the So like I paused for a verse, unplug that pedal, plug in the other two. But part of the cool thing about it is I spent so much time being my own guitar tech that I have a very intimate understanding of how my gear works, and I have a very intimate, methodical way to how I route my pedals And so if something goes down, I can fix it in 30 seconds because I know
Mm-hmm.
I'm prepared for it. But yeah, and there
Mm-hmm.
have been plenty of stories like that.
Okay.
My brother can tell you 10 of them.
I have this other Twitter question from Artu Moon. He asked if you had any kind of routine before live shows. You mentioned that how you visualize things. So any special trick that you do before a live show?
For me, it depends on what the performance is. If it's for playing lead guitar with a band like with John Mayer or with Carney, I'll kind of warm up my hands to make sure they're flexible for improvising.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll also go through certain parts to make sure that I'm nailing those parts. But if it's for a jazz thing, my warm ups will be really free. So I'll just kind of like start creating stuff in backstage, almost writing songs in some ways, just to kind of get stuff, loose in that way. Um, but if it's for a solo performance of my own, I spend very little time warming up guitar and most of the time warming up my voice.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll spend probably 15, 20 minutes warming up my voice, and then I'll do a few scales. And if there's a brand new song, just make sure I get the positioning right, and I'll go out. But I found it very helpful in the days leading up to a performance. If it's a new journey for me, if it's a new level of stress, like when I used to play on the late night show at the Carson Daly Band, the first couple shows there, I had a very specific amount of preparation I did. First show with John Mayer, very specific preparation. So I'll kind of specialize it for what the environment is. For Carson Daly, it was being, so quick. They'd say, "You're on," and camera, go, 3, 2, 1, go, go. So I would practice kind of like putting a thing on a voice memo and like counting down 3, 2, 1. I'll like try to play real quick, like practice that quick time response. Or with John, I would just read over the charts that I'd made for him before the first show and just like memorize them, just like get that right, get the form in my head, So preparation is a huge part of the way that I'm able to stay calm on stage.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I had another question again from Artu Moon. He asked, "What is your most expensive guitar? Are you looking for the very rare L series Strat from the '54, or you just don't care, just want a guitar that plays and that's it?"
Yeah, kind of the latter. I most of the guitars that I bought until about 3 years ago were under $500. I just bought stuff just to have that palette, as part of my palette, and I switch out pickups and do little fun stuff, some shave down the neck, just do weird things. But recently, I bought a Gibson J160E,
Mm-hmm.
and that was about $4,500, which is by far the most I've ever spent on a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it was worth it because I'm going to blend an LR Baggs Anthem inside, the magnetic pickup on the neck, and this Shirtler contact mic, and kind of get a really full sort of orchestral sound from the guitar, so that when I do my solo shows, just me, it's a lot of tonal palettes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was worth it, but yeah, I won't be buying a guitar for a while.
Okay. Do you do this kind of modification on your guitar yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, I've installed my own pickups and done stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The only stuff I kind of leave to a guitar tech is acoustic pickup installations because there's I don't want to mess up the wood,
Mm-hmm.
and intonation. I'm still not great with intonating my own instruments because I still haven't mastered the truss rod situation. So I send my guitars off to be intonated.
Mm-hmm. Okay. As a word of conclusion, what would be your word of wisdom to guitar player to become better player? In fact.
Wow. First off, I think it's just amazing that I'm in a position to offer. I feel like it's not so long ago that I was a kid, sort of like, oh man, I want to learn from these people. It's crazy to be offering anything of hopefully of help, but I guess preparation and practice have kind of been the theme here. I guess those would be the things I would kind of offer up to students and people who are trying to get to a place where they can play the things they hear in their head.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it can be really frustrating. I know that for singing with myself, it's been a frustrating process, but it's really rewarding if I just slow down and breathe and kind of just trust that I am growing, and the more I slow myself down, the more I'll grow. So that would be kind of my advice.
Mm-hmm. That's a nice piece of advice. What are your next projects? Are you coming to play to Europe anytime soon?
Yeah, well, I'm going back out on tour with John in April. We're going to
Okay.
Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and then I believe in June we're going to Europe. I
Oh,
don't know if
excellent.
we're going to France, but um, I don't know. I mean, after John's tour ends, I guess I'm going to be really all 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 systems go on my solo stuff, the
Hmm.
confluence stuff, the singing stuff. Um, so we'll see. I mean, I guess it all depends on if a manager and or label situation really feels like they'd be able to help me get my dream realized
Hmm.
in the next few months. And if they do, then once June or July hits, bam.
Okay, cool. And
Yeah.
don't you think that at one point in time you might be in a situation where you will have to choose between your two children, between Confluence, the pop way or the jazz way with Amalgam?
That's a good question. I hope not. I mean, I think there might be a point where the music industry says no to one of them. Says you're not really that great at this. Or you're not really that great at this. And if that really is clear to me, I have the humility. I hope to take it on the chin and say, okay, this isn't going to work out with you guys. So I'll do this for fun now. I won't pursue this as a career.
Mm, okay.
But if they say yes to both, man, let's do this. I think it'll be really special. I mean, I think one of the big gripes that, at least in America, that people make about music these days is that it's so commercialized, it's so produced, um, it's so sort of manicured and photoshopped auditorily. And people watch the Grammys and just want to. A lot of my friends were writing on Twitter. They wanted to throw up. It's just like, what does music come to?
Mm,
And so, to me, if there was a team of people that believed in this vision that I have, which is to have a full frontal attack, of different musical styles, in hopes of reaching the most amount of people possible, and giving them as much support as they. I mean, because I really believe music is like a service industry to support people. So if I can find a team that would believe in this vision I have, I think it would be really special. I mean, if I were a kid, um, and I saw, you know, Red Hot Chili Peppers, I loved them when I was a kid. If I saw, I would listen to anything they put out. And if Flea decided to put out a crazy jazz album that was like top-notch jazz stuff, I would have been introduced to jazz, which is an
mm.
amazing art form that I think can really kind of cuts away the fat of if music's about selling product, and if it's really just about the art. So I think that if I could have the luck and fortune of being a mainstream singing artist, and then also this jazz stuff is allowed to be released, it really special kids, adults, whoever that might not listen to instrumental music. Maybe they find that putting it on in the background while they're making breakfast for their wife, that it makes them feel better about themselves, makes them feel better about their day. That's what it does for me. So I that's my vision. I have this whole vision that's kind of nuts, and is the closest person to succeeding this vision I have, actually, believe it or not, is John Mayer, because
Hmm.
he has done his music and he also did Try, and it's not instrumental, but it's focusing on his instrument, it's focusing on that part of his music, and I guess I'd like to do something similar, just with purely instrumental music. So
Hmm. Okay. Well, thanks a lot for your time, Zem. It was great to be able to talk to you, and hopefully we will be able to do that face to face when you come to France, to Paris.
I hope so. I gotta say, on a side note, I've got to come to France one day, because I should have started the interview with this, but France has created my favorite art ever.
Really? Hmm.
Jean-Pierre Genet is my favorite.
Okay.
The City of Lost Children with Mark Carroll, he
Yeah, yeah.
co-worked on it. Wow, that movie is one of my favorite movies ever. And what I listen to most of the time is Impressionism. So Debussy, Ravel, Dutilleux, which is not really Impressionism, kind of more 20th century, but I listen to those guys all the time. And whenever I've gone to museums, I gravitate towards the Impressionist work, the French. You know, I don't know what it is about France, but it's like the art in France speaks to me. So, oh, the diving bell and the butterfly,
Hmm.
amazing. So, I don't know, the sense of humor in France, it resonates with me. And anyway, I hope to come there and play a bunch of shows, because my heart is very closely linked to the art that's come out of France.
Hmm. Okay, cool. Well, you know what? Next time you come to Paris, I'll take you to visit the Musée d'Orsay, which has a wonderful collection of the Impressionists, so you will enjoy it.
Oh, I would love that. That'd be
Hmm.
great.
Okay. Tell us where we can find you on the internet, your website, and that kind of things.
Yeah, so my website's zanecarney.com,
Mm-hmm.
and it has links to everything: my Tumblr, Twitter, MySpace, which is still kind of doing stuff musically. Um, what else? Facebook, yeah, all that stuff's on there. YouTube, and it also has links to Confluence and Amalgam on iTunes. But yeah, if people want to buy those records on Amazon MP3, Google Play, it's pretty much available everywhere in the world now on digital stores.
Okay, cool. Thanks again for your time, Zane. It was very nice to be able to talk to you like that for such a long time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. All right, bye bye.
Bye bye.